is features prominent people in the food service industry, either a former client, as is the case today, an RRC agent broker, or other accomplished person related to the food and beverage industry. This month, we're delighted to welcome Michael Karp, who has 30 years plus of restaurant experience. And Michael is the founder and owner of LPT Restaurants, and I'll let him tell you what LPT stands for when he gives his comments. But LPT includes the Fourth Bore Tap Room and Grill in Orinda, a very well-known, successful restaurant, as well as 2 successful Forged Pizzas in Oakland and Napa. He has an amazing corporate restaurant background, including working at Acapulco, El Torito, Hillstone Restaurants, Outback Steakhouse, Alice Cooperstown, AEG Staples Center, Live Nation's North American and Food and Beverage Program, and more. And Michael will give you more details about his background in just a few minutes. Fortunately, I had the opportunity at Restaurant Realty, I had the opportunity working with Michael and selling 2 of his restaurants, 2 very well-known restaurants, Table 24 in Orinda and Ford's Pizza in Danville. So if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question bar and we will respond to them during the show. So with all that being said, Michael, tell us about how you got started in the business, please.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate it.
Pleasure.
We've been working together for quite a long time, and
yeah,
thank you very much for inviting me on.
My pleasure.
Well, I got started in the restaurant business. Basically, I went to Tulane University in New Orleans and moved from Boston. I went there to go swim. I got recruited to go swim there, and I was sort of a meat and potatoes guy from Boston, and was exposed to wonderful food and music and all these great things that happen in New Orleans. And in my time there, just really opened my eyes to wanting to entertain people, wanting to be part of music and part of great food. And so that really inspired it. I had an uncle that I had never met that was the CEO of Real Mex Restaurants, which owned Acapulco and El Torito. I wrote him a letter, of course, 1991, whatever it was, and he invited me to come join his restaurant management program, and that was the beginning of really getting into the restaurant business, having only worked in bars in New Orleans, or a bar in New Orleans prior to that. That was my start.
And so what was your first, that was your first restaurant job? Tell us about it and how that developed to your next,
Yeah, the first restaurant job was this crazy bar, called the Rendon Inn in New Orleans. It was a Tulane bar, and the owners were 2 brothers that hired a bunch of Sigma Chi's, which I was. We went in there and just had fun, and the place was empty at 11 p.m. and packed, at 11:01, and then closed at 2:30, and that was my first real job, food and beverage job. My first real job was with Real Mex. I went into the management training program. I actually trained in Burbank, which was during the Jay Leno and Johnny Carson changeover, when Johnny Carson retired, which was kind of fun. He had that week-long, literally my first week of training with this company was the last week of Johnny Carson's career, and we catered the whole thing. So I was in that NBC studio as part of my training, just kind of, helping out. So that was kind of fun. Yeah.
What was that like?
It was my first. I hadn't, like famous people. It was kind of fun. I don't even remember who the guests were, but I remember, I didn't see very many of them, but I remember they were all around, and we were literally just carting food. It was across the street, and we were just carting food over to, to feed these folks for a week. I was, like I said, it was my first week in training, and it was fun. Good time.
Cool. So what are some of the most fun projects you've been involved with?
Oh God, I mean, I've done a lot of different things. I was the interim COO to open a chain of Toby Keith's restaurants. I opened a restaurant microbrewery for the Arizona Diamondbacks when they first opened Bank One Ballpark in the late '90s. I then After that, I got hired by the Anschutz Entertainment Group, who had just opened Staples Center, and they were getting ready to sort of take over the sports and entertainment world, opening venues at the Home Depot Center in Carson. We opened Celine Dion's venue, the Caesars Coliseum in Vegas, London, Berlin. So it went from this kind of restaurant job into a worldwide food and beverage job kind of overnight. So I moved from Phoenix, where I was at the time, to Los Angeles, and was running Phil Anschutz's food and beverage program, really all over the world in planning and design.
Wow.
After that, I left the Anschutz Entertainment Group and went and did pretty much the same job for Live Nation, which was more, instead of stadiums and arenas, it was more about amphitheaters, nightclubs. We had 52 amphitheaters across the country, and I oversaw concessions and restaurants and nightclubs and all that in North America for them. So
Wow.
kind of getting out of the restaurant business per se, the bricks and mortar, and then went into this large venue thing for almost 8 years.
Wow. So how did you actually get LPD restaurants going? I mean, from working for other folks and then starting on your own, what was that transition like, and how did it occur?
Well, I opened on my own with a former partner. I opened a small place in Orinda called Table 24, which you ended up selling. And then I opened in the same complex, I opened a Mexican restaurant called Barbacoa. And then when I opened Barbacoa, Jim Ellis and Will Miller, who owned Ellis Partners they owned Jack London Square, they came to me. They really liked Barbacoa. They invited me down to Jack London Square to see a site, because they really loved Barbacoa. Barbacoa was kind of on its last legs. After a year and a half, it wasn't doing great. It was just kind of missed the concept. And then they showed me this site on the water, and I said, well, they showed me the one site that I didn't like, and they showed me the second site, which I loved, but it was really run down. Will Miller then said, what do you want to put there? And I said, I want to create the best pizza and local beer concept. So I called my college classmate and fraternity brother, Andy Burns, who's a builder and a designer. And I said, let's build a restaurant. And so it kind of started from there. That was the first location, really. And that's where we knew we wanted to do more than one. So we created a parent company called LBT Restaurants. That was in 2012.
And tell them how you came up with LBT.
Well, LBT stands for Les Bon Temps Roulé, the good times. So we're the good time, Les Bon Temps restaurants. Another, thing stemming from New Orleans. It's kind of quirky but fun.
Yeah. You've got an amazing ability to be able to repivot, from things that perhaps didn't meet your expectations and go into things that, do work out. I mean, what gives you that sense of motivation and drive to do this? Because a lot of people, once they have something that doesn't work, so they just abandon the whole notion of staying in a particular niche and do something entirely different. But you seem to learn from your challenges and just move on and get better. So what gives you that drive?
Yeah, I don't like to take no for an answer. So when someone says that it's not working for whatever reason, I mean, a good example is Barbacoa missed the mark because half of the community wanted it to be kind of nachos and Coronas, and the other half of the community wanted it to be this beautiful Mexican restaurant, and I confused the two concepts. So, and it was hard finding a chef to it was a very polarizing concept. So I love the location. I love the community that we're in here in Orinda. My kids all swim and go to school here and play baseball here. And I just decided that the Mexican concept was something that I couldn't control myself. So I created the fourth bore, which is now in its just finishing its 7th year, which is something where I could be the chef. I could be the general manager. I could, and I didn't have to rely on, regional food and things like that. So that's a good example of just, I like to, I like to adapt to the community and see what it is that the community needs and wants, and I listen. I'm a good listener, and I don't take no for an answer. I mean, I could have, barbacoa was so confusing that I could have just closed it, and I said, I know exactly what will work here, and thankfully and humbly, I love where we are with that concept right now.
Yeah, the Orinda Square that you're in, I mean, you've got, from my perception at least, Orinda better than I do, but that seems to be a somewhat of a challenging location, because it's a sort of almost planned destination. You don't really have much visibility from the outside. You got to go in. It's sort of an interior corridor, center, and so you got to be really good to draw people. And
yeah, we designed it so that patio sort of comes alive. We have a huge 8-foot fire pit that you can see from the road. Right. I mean, it's definitely challenging. We program it with music Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I have 2 great chefs that work on seasonality, and you walk in and it feels like a bar, but it's a restaurant first. It's 65% food. And it's kind of, we under promise and over deliver on service and quality of food. So it ends up being sort of a destination. You have to find it, and like I never take it for granted, and I'm always surprised with the people that show up to enjoy the 28 tap beer list and the great food. It's been great.
Yeah, we have a great reputation. Who designs and builds your restaurants?
The partner that I told you about, we started LBT Restaurants. His name's Andy Burns. He owns a design build company that builds very customized homes in Phoenix and really all over the country. He is my architect. Everything, when you go in there, everything that you see other than the tables and the chairs, we build. We build the windows, we design. Literally, we fabricate in Phoenix, Arizona. We perfectly measure all the dimensions, and we install on site. So everything from the bar tops to the window systems, and actually even the tables we build ourselves. Wow. So yeah, he does an amazing job, and he doesn't, he's really a custom home builder, and I convinced him back in 2011 to get into the restaurant business with me. And he was definitely reluctant, and now I think he's happy.
So who else makes up the team at LBT Restaurants besides yourself?
Well, construction zone, design, build. I'm the operating partner of it. I have a COO named Jeff Pimentel. And also I have an assistant that runs my office, Freddie Gorham. We have a few chefs. Jonathan Williams is a catering chef. Ignacio is another great corporate chef that helps us roll out menu items all across the country. Across the company, sorry. And that's really it.
That's optimistic thinking across the country. That's good.
Yeah. Well, we did the one concept in Phoenix, and we were, I didn't love it because I had to go there every week, and we were on the cusp of we either had to open a second restaurant there or sell it, and we decided to sell it. And yeah, I'm Northern California guy, and my objective is to, I'm focused right now on the suburbs in Northern California, and, sure. and being the best restaurant in small communities.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what's your favorite part of the restaurant business?
I love to entertain folks. I love to, be part of the process. I love to help book the music and watch the music that comes on weekends. And I love to work with the chefs. I'm not a chef, but I have really good relationships with chefs. I just like to entertain people, and I enjoy making people happy. And like I said, I'm a good listener. I don't hear everything. I'm good at blocking out nonsense, but I hear what the people want, and especially in these small communities, they're tight knit.
Got it. So I know, you talk to me regularly about looking for new opportunities. So exactly what kind of projects are you sort of prioritizing as far as your future new projects go?
Well, I like kind of like non-conventional locations. Like, I'm not a mall guy. It's funny that, one of my most successful concepts is here, but it's really, we're at the historic movie theater in Orinda, although it kind of plays like a retail center. I like non-traditional places. Like, our Jack London Square location was an old ice house right on the water, in the marina. Napa is, on the southern tip of Napa, and love that great small community, American Canyon adjacent. I like non-traditional. I like to the Napa restaurant was the only place that I've ever built from the ground up, which was kind of fun. I mean, it's we everything else we've adapted to sort of where it is. So I enjoy non-traditional locations that I can kind of see through, whether it be an old warehouse or an ice house in Oakland.
Sure. So with all the different challenges you've had through the years, what do you think is the biggest challenge of the industry currently that we're dealing with?
Well, it's just starting to come back right now, but the labor pool was, just really tough. Coming out of COVID, really, really tough to get people to come back to work. That was very hard. Right now, it's really escalating. Our cost of goods sold, or it's tough. Things are really, really volatile out there. I mean, everything, meat and chicken and produce, it's really volatile. So our prices are moving around quite a bit, but I think we're adapting well, and I think the public, they're not really afraid of spending what they have to come out and have a good meal. Mm-hmm. I mean, some of our prices are on the high side, but they have to be. They have to be, because we're spending a lot of money on product. Yeah.
Well, do you think because of their exposure to the increased prices, they're, finding in grocery stores and any other kind of service they go for, they notice that, prices are going up. So it should be natural that restaurant prices are going to go up, especially if you want to maintain quality.
Yeah, there was a Wall Street article, I can't cite it, but you can find it, that said that it's more expensive to cook at home. There was a time, 6 or 8 months ago, that grocery stores just were so expensive that it was less expensive to come out to a restaurant to eat. So I think people understand now, but you gotta give them quality, and you gotta give them service, or else they won't come back.
Yeah. So what are the 3 priority items that one needs to know to practice to be successful in this business?
I use this word balance a lot. There's a time when I was with Houston's, I mean, everything was perfect, and people had to be perfect, and people had to dress perfect, and we folded our towels perfectly, and now you got to have balance. Because you're never going to find, as an owner, in my opinion, you're never going to, it's hard to find people that care as much as you do. And so balance is a big thing, and patience is a big thing. I still want things to be perfect, but I understand keeping team members and facilities and everything that we deal with on a daily basis, keeping them in balance. That's important. So balance and patience are the biggest thing. And then, I still having fun. it's got to be fun to me. I mean, I tell my team members this all the time that are stressed out about their job and about what's going on. If it's not fun, I'd rather it be, it starts with fun and then making money is second. And I say that with everything that I have, it's got to be fun. So I guess those are the three things.
Okay. So we've alluded to some of the challenges of the industry, but specifically, the shortage of employees, the high operating costs of, for employees, for products, occupancy costs. Most landlords, they backed off a little during COVID, but I'm finding that, a lot of them are just now as greedy as ever, and all these other expenses. So as a result of all these challenges, I mean, how do you see the restaurant industry developing in I'm talking in terms of Northern California, our region? I mean, I just came back from a 5-day conference, a business brokers conference in Florida, and ate in a couple of restaurants there. Noticed there's a noticeable difference in pricing being much lower there, and obviously the cost of living in California is very challenging. So how do you deal with all these issues? I mean, it's going to be very, very challenging as an operator.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if I consider myself a really good operator. I manage things that a lot of restaurant operators don't want to manage. Like, I pay attention to napkins and straws, and that's how you get lost. The way that I look at it is, if I can have a good relationship with a landlord, then I'm going to be good. I mean, I've seen in Jack London Square, I've been there for 10 years. I'm in my 11th year there, and I have seen single restaurants, have 3 different operators in them. And so if I can have a partnership, a lot of people like to use this term of a partnership with the landlord, but if I can have a true partnership with the landlord, then I'm going to be good. I'm going to be good because everything else is controllable. My labor is controllable. I put my team together. I compensate them fairly, hopefully. The only thing that I have to control up front is the deal that I make up front. And if the landlord will truly work together with me, if I have bad times, then if it's a percentage rent deal, if I have bad times, then the percentage rent deal makes sense. But if I'm in a situation where I still have to pay $30,000 and I have COVID, or if I have something, I'm going to be gone. So if I have a good relationship with a landlord, I'll be there for 10 years. I'll be there for a long time.
Well, hopefully your landlord will see the light and understand that you're a good operator, and that there aren't exactly tenants standing in line to march into Jack London Square at this particular time.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Issues,
I'm super emotional about that location. I love it. I mean, I grew up, my dad had fishing boats, and I love being on the water. I love being on boats, and I'm super emotional about that restaurant. And I'm sad about what's going on in Oakland. But if I were to renew the lease, it would be all about that emotion that I have toward that site and those people that run the restaurant that I love. But it would be the worst business deal that I ever made. Because I wouldn't last. I'd get into a situation where, because it's just tough. We're double digits down, and I know it's going to come back. How long it's going to be, I don't know. I don't hold that key, but it's a tough market right now.
So in order for you to stay there, what you would need to have some sort of a rent reduction in order to deal with.
I'm good on that. What happens? That particular deal is not to get into the finances of it, the deep finances of it, but it needs to. There's going to be other people in that location that go out of business. I just know it because I've seen in 10 years, I've seen like 3 operators on the opposite end cap of me. And I know, I hope to God they last, because the more the merrier. Like, I want them to be there because it attracts other people.
Synergism is important.
But what happens is, when one of those other co-tenants goes out, we end up this pro rata share of their common area maintenance.
Oh, wow.
Right. and that part of the deal is tough. And then we're creating a new base rent, and it's just it's a bad deal.
Yeah. So what do you foresee as far as Oakland in general? I mean, in terms of, losing the three big sports teams and just the general, problems that exist within the city. What do you foresee as far as there being a turnaround in downtown Oakland, in the periphery?
I can't predict that. I know that it's something drastic has to happen, and I hope that it's not folks it feels like folks are kind of turning their back on it and want it to get to the absolute worst so it can be rebuilt. But when was the last time you saw a major city lose 3 sports teams in 3 years?
Yeah,
it's just unprecedented.
Yeah.
So that even if it's propaganda, it's still, people still emotionally get affected by, the Warriors left, 3 world championships, they leave. The A's, we knew that they were going to go. I mean, the Raiders, it's just what's next? So, we're going to hang in there. Like I said, I'm super emotional about it. I came in 10 years ago as a new guy in Oakland, and now I feel like I'm part of it, and I love it, and I'm saddened by it. But we have a lot of deals on the table. You can't see it, but I've got a whiteboard here right now with a bunch of deals. But I'm only going to get into good deals. I'm only going to get in great deals.
You need to. I mean, the reality is, your occupancy costs really shouldn't exceed more than 7-8% of your sales, with the high cost of, labor and food and other operating expenses. So you need to have, a reasonable occupancy cost to absorb the heavy costs of doing business, to have a reasonable margin. I mean, that's the purpose of being in business is it's not a nonprofit, it's to make money, a reasonable amount of money. I mean, most good operators don't make that much anyway. I mean, they're lucky to make 10-12%, unless they're doing horrendous volumes. So yeah, I as a landlord, a restaurant landlord, I'm fortunately sensitive to that, being a former restaurant owner. Unfortunately, so when my tenants option came up, we were, my partner and I were reasonable, in terms of, looking at having to make price rent adjustments in order to keep the good tenant, and unfortunately there aren't a lot of landlords that have that same sentiment, and consequently, there's a lot of turnover in restaurants, and areas that are particularly hit are, like Oakland, downtown San Francisco. The office population is deteriorated. The homeless problem, the bad reputation San Francisco has with the homelessness, even before COVID, has affected tourism, has affected convention business. And, it's a resilient city. It will come back. It's just a matter of when. But, your typical retailer can't live, in the interim. They got to pay their rent. They got to get employees, et cetera. So it is an extremely big challenge, to say.
I mean, there would be the deals that I'm walking away from in the city, are turnkey deals that.
Oh, sure. I know.
I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to deal with it. Back, 5 or 6 years ago, no brainer deals. I'm just no, thank you. And you gotta have that discipline, or else, you end up with 4 restaurants in San Francisco that are, you go broke, and people are signing personal guarantees.
It's very sad. I just recently had a conversation with someone that had a number of operations in downtown San Francisco, and they're older, and they've got these personal guarantees. They, gave a number of units back to landlords. They worked out, they sold a couple, but they've got still some remaining, and it's, they got to deal with, surviving, and it's very, very tough. So what do you think typically is the life of a restaurant concept that's well executed?
As long as, with a good operator, like I said, if you're working well with your landlord, I have 2 places that are over 10 years, and I have another place that's 7.5 years. I mean, I'm, good operators stay for a long time. And it's important to me in my concepts, I become part of the community. It's really, I never say no. I never say no to charities. I never say no to the schools or the pools or whatever. They come to me. I want, they ask for $50 gift cards, $100 gift cards. We donate. We have a 1971 fire truck with a Valoriani pizza oven on it. I donate that to events. So we become part of the community. And that's so a part of the community and relationship with a good relationship with the landlord. I mean, it's 10 years or longer. And for the short-sighted property owners that are out there that wanna get rich off one retailer, good luck. I mean, I'm here right now in Orinda, and there's Starbucks went out, Subway went out. I mean, there's 5 storefronts down there that are empty. And what normally happens is every restaurant, when you see Subway go out and Starbucks go out,
yeah,
you see even the performers like the Fourth Bore, they struggle. We're through the roof. And it's because we're part of the community.
Sure. No, that makes sense.
I'm humbled by it. Like I said, I'll never take it for granted. I work just as hard every day. But this center here is pretty tired, so I just want it to be fun and new concepts. Want to be part of the community, give back. Love to develop relationships, love to develop concepps, and that energizes me. And that all comes from social chairman at Sigma Chi in New Orleans, Louisiana at Tulane. It was just, having fun and wanting to entertain folks.
So going back to your whiteboard again, evaluating, analyzing, prospective new opportunities. What are some of the major criteria that you're looking at as far as base rent, landlord contributions, TI money, free rent, startups? What typically is your criteria if you're going into, let's say, a restaurant that's closed, and you're going to need to spend some money to give it some new bones? Have to refresh it, do powder paint, do some realignment of the kitchen equipment, etc. So in that kind of scenario, what generally are you looking for from the landlord to get yourself up and running?
Well, if they want me to be there for 10 years, I want a very aggressive deal. And I'll guarantee that if we together build, depending on, I have to have some skin in the game without a doubt. I believe that my concepts will add value to properties. And I know that I'll be there for 10 years if I get a fair deal. So what a fair deal could be, sometimes it's free rent, sometimes it's a turnkey restaurant. But as long as I'm not struggling up front and we're working together up front, I'm going to be there for a long time, and I'm going to be a true partner. So my occupancy at no time can be any more than like 9%, 10%. Because people, maybe people, listening today don't think so, but we fight for 3 to 5%, like fight for it. And that's why I have to count straws and count napkins. So I got to have my fixed deal up front with the landlord, has to be ironclad and fair. And if it's not, then we're upside down and I'm a month late on rent. And I never want to be in that situation. I was in that situation with a bad partner years ago that put me there, and it's the worst feeling ever. That'll never happen to me again. I'd rather say no to a deal,
sure,
than not have a great deal with a great partnership. So I get very aggressive up front because I know what kind of operator I am, and I know that I'm going to be there for a long time. And hopefully it's a someone that wants to take the concept to other locations if they're a major developer. And so our goal is, like, for the first time, we opened 7 restaurants in 7 years, from 2010 to 2017. I opened 7 restaurants in 7 years. We've sold 4 of them, and now I'm down to 3. But now I'm ready to move forward again. I think the time is right, but the deal has to be right, and I'm really focused on the suburbs. But the deal has to be great, or else, we're good managing, and we can always make better the three that we have right now. We do $10 million in 3 locations, and but I love the development part, and that's kind of what I'm missing right now, and that's why we're back at the drawing board, looking at new places.
So what goes into your due diligence in evaluating a new restaurant opportunity? In other words, you obviously do pro formas, and I would imagine do conservative pro formas, projected income and expenses for X number of years to make sure that everything sort of fits in. What else do you do as far as sizing up a particular location? What are the components in analyzing a location to see if it meets your criteria for the concept that you plan to put into that location?
The first thing, believe it or not, is it's feel. Like I walk out, I get there. If I've never been there and I don't understand the community, it just has to. It's a feel that I have, and an understanding of the demographic that surrounds it, understanding of the competition, like what concepts are there, and it's really about a feel, an understanding of the demographic. And yeah, it's kind of a mixture of that. And then I always write very conservative pro formas, just that would make sense based on the rent. I want to be in that 6 to 8% total occupancy all in area. I can get to 9, and then that's really it. And then I dive deeper into, if it's an already existing, if it's a second generation restaurant, I'm like, what changes can I make to, why did they fail? Got to learn that. Like, why did, you always have to, in my opinion, you always have to erase the bad memory of what was there before. So we're not going to just go in there and shine it up. We're going to go in there and make drastic changes to the FF&E to make it ours. And then, it's really just kind of a process. And then I start to bring, Jeff comes in, and then, the next phase after that is I bring Andy, and I'm like, Andy, what do you think about this 3,300 square feet? And we start to kind of build it from the front of the house, the back of the house forward. Got to have patios and fire pits and outdoor air is very important to me. Yeah. Is there some sort of target, a ratio of what percent outdoor seating you want versus indoor seating? No, the ratio that I deal with mostly, and it's changing. It's funny. I just had a conversation with Jeff about this week. The patio has to be sizable. I'd like to, I want to have 50 to 100 people on a patio. And I want it to come to life with lights and awnings and fire pits and a place for live music and things like that. The ratio that I'm really concerned with nowadays is, it used to be 1/3 back kitchen, 2/3 dining. Right. Aside from the patio. Yeah. But now with the to-go component, depending on the market that you're in, that 1/3, it has to be a little bit bigger, because the to-go is so big now with all the delivery companies, that you interrupt your in-house business if you clutter it with the to-go food. So a food item that usually comes out in 12 to 15 minutes, if you get inundated with to-go in that same footprint, then you take away from the experience of the folks that are in your 4 walls. And that's the biggest mistake that you could ever make. So now we're thinking about building kind of to-go specific areas. Where we can prepare and put together and box that food that doesn't get in the way of front and back of house. So it's becoming like a 40-45% kitchen thing. And as long as you have that patio for overflow in the dining room, it should be a good equation. And what are you finding are your ratios now of in-house seating versus takeout and delivery post-COVID here? It just depends. Orinda does 5 to 8% to go food, but Napa does 25%. It depends on the market. Yeah. We're looking at a deal right now in Fremont, about a block and a half away from Tesla. Brand new 2,200 unit apartments. You can just see it. It's right at the Warm Springs BART station. You can just see how much to go you're going to have there. It's going to be, just the demographic that's there, a lot of tech, a lot of people that are going to probably, eat in their apartments and eat during lunch, eat while they're working. And that model that's going to be a very different model. So, and that's a different model than Orinda. Orinda is just not a to-go community as much as Napa or this Fremont location is going to be.
Is this Fremont location, is this going to be a build out, or is it going to be a second generation restaurant?
It's a build out. Yeah,
build out.
It's a brand new 2,200 unit apartment complex that we're very interested in, working with great brokers, great owners.
So the landlord's willing to play ball and be reasonable in terms of making contributions toward leasehold improvements and free rent, et cetera.
Yeah, it's sort of how I feel. It's a feeling that you get up front. One's a relationship and one's a business deal. Mm-hmm. And if it feels like a relationship, then it feels good. Just in how the partnership is going to work. To sit down and make a business deal, it's just not right. But so the deals that I'm getting into right now feel like partnerships. They feel like we're on the same page and we're working together toward the same thing.
Yeah, that's a necessity in order to be successful. Yeah. Without a question. What do you think generally about the quality of takeout and delivery food versus, in-house? Because I know personally, I have a problem with that. I mean, I go back to the old days when we had Zim's restaurants, and it was before we even had the dome, container. We used to take a big, thick Zimburger, put it into a dry wax bag, and French fries into a dry wax bag. And without a question, that method was definitely inferior end product. And but even today, with the sophistication, I know there are certain foods that may travel better than others. But what's your take on quality of food to the end consumer, takeout delivery?
It scares me to death. I don't like it one bit. It's funny. We have wood-fired pizza in Jack London Square and in Napa. That pizza, it just, anything that cooks in 90 seconds kind of dies that quickly, it's not great. The quality diminishes without a doubt. We have, for our pizza that comes from Oakland and Napa, we have directions on the box. Put your oven on high broil and put it on the rack without very specific directions. But we know that probably very few people do it. If you do follow those directions, our pizza is better than it is when it's in the restaurant, to be honest. But if you just eat it when you get home, I just know it's just not going to be great. It's not going to be. So short answer, I know it's something that we do have plenty of items that travel really well, but our pizza is just okay. Now the pizza out of Orinda, because we have a different style oven, travels very well, and it's great. It's better when you get it home. So kind of a two-part answer, but I don't love the to-go business, but I know that we need to do it.
Okay, jumping back to culture and employees' morale and good attitudes and staying with the team and being very positive, et cetera. What sort of incentives do you give to your management team to compensate them to stick around? Since there's such a shortage of employees, I think people are more vulnerable to take a hike, for a few more dollars here or there. So in order to sort of close that door, what are your practices there, and what kind of longevity do you have with your employees, generally speaking, in the management ranks and senior non-management people?
I have great long-term employees. We incentivize them all differently. Some managers are on a bonus program. They have to achieve metrics. We're just getting back into that now because it's been 2 years of COVID and then a year of catching up from it. The performances are getting there now, but management bonus programs. But we do a lot of special events and catering. So I incentivize even general managers to go book parties, and I give them percentages of parties. I also am really excited about the model of all of my general managers are hourly employees. They make a very high hourly, and they're able to be part of these special events that happen inside our four walls and outside our four walls, where they can go contribute and be part of a tip pool, to go, work at a wedding offsite. So they're all, long story short, they're all incentivized in different ways. And I believe that model is working because I have folks that have been with me for a long time. I have chefs that have been with me for 8 or 9 years. I have line cooks in Orinda that have been with me for longer than that. Caesar and Tuca have been with me since 2010. So, it's a fair wage. We understand what's going on out in the world. We incentivize them with things that happen, outside our four walls. The restaurants are not just restaurants, they're event centers because of our mobile catering capabilities. So, we just did on Tuesday, we just did a $5,000 charity event up in Napa. So, 3 managers go up there with 3 employees, and they all make, quite a bit more money. A general manager that's on salary just goes up there and he's watching everybody around him make money. And he's like, well, I'm working just as hard as them. So that hourly model has really been something that I think incentivizes them.
Sure.
So, the harder they work and the more they want to do, the more money they make. And if they work 10 hours of overtime, there's guys making general managers making $50 an hour. So they're sticking around, and everybody seems happy, and they're so I think the model works.
Yeah. So what do you think about, I know there's some organizations that have tried tip sharing between back of the house and front of the house. What's your thinking of that? And
it's just kind of touchy, the California legalities of just folks that don't know. You have to you're supposed to physically touch the table to be part of a tip pool. So what does that mean?
Is that what law?
Does that mean?
Is that California state law that says that?
Yeah,
oh, really?
They have to physically touch the table, address the table. And a guy that's dropping fries and making beautiful salads isn't going to touch the table. So he can't be part of that. And I know there's a lot of places that work around that, and whether that's good or bad or indifferent. So we do that in the catering functions of a tip pool, but the day-to-day restaurant within the bricks and mortar is, there's a tip process of tipping out hosts, tipping out bussers and runners, and bartenders do the same. So, but the big tip pool thing I have not embraced.
I got it. So in order to motivate back of the house people, you just pay them a very competitive wage, I guess. Is that how it works?
Yeah, you pay them a very competitive wage. And we have guys, that line cooks, that on their 6th day, they'll come in, they'll make overtime and come work a party at one of the grammar schools for me and put $200 in their pocket. And that's kind of, in gratuities. Sure. So because we're kind of non-conventional and have this catering business, there's a lot of opportunity for guys to not just make the same every week. They could work a party, they could go do an event where they can make some extra money.
Yeah. Okay. We're sort of getting to the end of our thing, and I just see we have some questions, so I'd like to entertain these questions. Are all the retail spaces turned into restaurant spaces after the fact? All the retail, I'm not quite sure. Let's see, what does that question mean? Are all the retail spaces turned into restaurant spaces after the fact? Oh, so I think what the question may be is, if a space is empty or was some other non-restaurant retail, I don't know. I'm a little vague. How do you interpret that question?
When I go in, I like it to have been a restaurant before, because the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing is, a $300,000 thing. So hopefully it's been powered for a restaurant previously, if that's what they're getting at. Like, if I go into a space, every restaurant that I've left has become a restaurant again, and it's second generation. Places that I've sold or or released or whatever has become restaurants. So it depends what they mean about the front end or the back end.
I think what he's talking about, because as he asks another question, the unconventional spaces using, he says TI, burn, build, grease. I think IT, burn, turn, build, grease, traps, ventilation using turnkey locations. I think what he's implying is your criteria is that if you're going to go into a shell, that basically all the leaseholds are in place, the plumbing, electrical, grease trap, HVAC system, etc.
Yeah, I mean, my model is I'll pay. I want to pay for the things that I can leave with after my 10 years are up, and everything else. I mean, and there's a gray area in that, but everything else should be a landlord's responsibility because I can't leave with the hood. I can't leave with all the duct work and all of that mechanical, electrical, and plumbing infrastructure.
Right.
And then my value is we come in there and build it out so it's beautiful.
Right. Got it. Okay. This is from another person. You mentioned that Mr. Karp was a busboy in Acapulco. What advice would he have for an older person with high personnel overhead here in the United States that's looking to skip that pivotal step and go straight into opening concept restaurants? That's a juicy one.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of who that is because I know that I have some fun knucklehead friends that are.
Oh, okay.
Today, so thank you all for joining.
Are the initials JC?
Yeah. They should JC. Oh yeah, I know.
Okay, he's getting even with you.
That's fine. JC, you should if you're going from busboy, you should not go directly to owner. You should there's many steps in between those two. So we can think about it offline.
Okay. How about EC? Is he one of your buddies?
JC.
EC is asked those first two questions about the.
I'm not sure who that is.
Okay. Basically, did he do a build out? Okay, that's the next question from the same EC. And EC says, since he likes unconventional spaces. Okay. All right. I think he's just reinforcing the fact that it's preferable to have the basic TIs in place rather than to reinvent the wheel. Okay. Here's another one from another person. When are you coming to open a restaurant in the Boston area?
Oh, that's going to be my sister.
That's L, and two last names, DS, LDS. You know that person?
That's my sister.
Okay.
Yeah, tell her to find. I've been telling her for years. Find me a cool location and a good deal. I'm there. It's all done.
Yeah, got it.
We were talking about a place with someone else that may or may not be listening. In Providence, we were talking about opening a forge, but I don't know what happened. So yeah, I'm open. I'm mobile. Let's go.
Yeah, well, especially since the operating costs in a lot of these other states are much less. I mean, I was at they have a yearly show called the Restaurant Finance and Development Conference. It's in Las Vegas. And I only went to one show. I was asked to be on a panel with other brokers talking about the challenges of, restaurants in their particular areas. And the general consensus, they're mainly CFOs, CEOs of big national chains, franchises, et cetera. And their whole demeanor towards California was like, where's California? Like California is like in a different country because it's perceived by these big nationals that, and especially those that are public and they have to show earnings per share to their investors, that the operating costs are so much higher here than elsewhere in the country. And so consequently, you don't see the typical proliferation of franchise number of units per capita that you do in other states.
It's just relative, like everything else.
Yeah.
Right? It's relative like gas prices. I mean, it's
yeah. I mean,
it's a pain. It's really hard to do business here.
Yeah, I saw $3.50 gas prices in Florida when I was just there. Yeah, so it's all relative. Anyway, any other last comments you'd like to make? We've covered a very broad section of stuff, and I know one thing I just want to make mention of, because I think in dealing with a lot of different restaurateurs, I sense that Michael has a tremendous amount of empathy in dealing with people because he has paid his dues. He's come up through the ranks. He's been involved with so many different diversified situations, concept-wise, different parts of the country, et cetera. And I think that really, as an underlier, is a big component of his success. And I appreciate that he is a superb operator and knows what he's talking about. And it's nice to deal with professionals like him.
Thank you very much.
Sure. So with that being said, Michael, if the audience wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Michael at lbtrestaurants.com.
Okay.
lbtrestaurants.com. Yeah.
Okay. So again, thank you. Just on an announcement note, on our next restaurant, Dealmaker, will feature Tim Dale, who's a past client. I sold his nightclub in San Francisco, and also sold him a cigar bar, which aren't too fashionable these days, but nonetheless, it was a very successful operation for many years. He's also the founder of Yoga Tree, which he sold. It was a 10-unit yoga company that was very successful. And he's the founder director of OM Rising, which is a yoga wellness music festival. Tim has an outstanding personality and is a very experienced food and beverage operator. Then on Thursday, July 13th, we will feature Laura Van Gallen, who is a former seller client of Phoenix Nightclub in San Rafael. And she was formerly president and CEO of Blue Marketing Company, which is a full service marketing company. And she's got a lot of insight into operations and marketing. So anyway, we appreciate your attendance today and participation. Michael, thank you very much for sharing your expertise and your candidness. And everyone stay well, enjoy the spring. Hopefully we'll have some good weather. Anyway, thanks for joining us today. Hope to see you soon. Take care.
Thank you all.
Michael.
Appreciate it. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.